About 15 years ago or so, I was turned on to the idea of stinging nettle as a food and medicine, and it seemed extremely compelling. The idea of this hardy perennial plant you can't kill, that burns the heck out of you when you touch it, and also fills you with medicine and food and is nourishing and satisfying, seemed so compelling. So I started bringing those plants into our landscape. And I was super loose and pretty wild with how I planted them, which is kind of how I do all the planting that I like to do. Put them in all sorts of nooks and crannies, found varieties along the riverbanks of the Delaware River, down in New Jersey, visiting with my friend Dana on a kayak one evening, and buying them in from different nurseries for different cultivars, finding them along railroad tracks in different places. Nettle was something that I really wanted to work with and understand. And Sasha finds it super compelling to work with as a tea in the winter, so she likes to dry nettle. This is the time of year, mid to later May, that we do so. But a number of years ago, we started noticing that in our nettle patches, so here is a stinging nettle plant under extreme duress. In fact, there's lots in here that look, oh my God, so torn up. So bad. When they could be looking like this. These are stinging nettles that are in our chicken yard that have no issues whatsoever. What the heck is going on? The first time I saw our nettle patches decimated, so at least that's what I thought I was seeing, it was extremely infuriating. I was like, oh, the heck is in there? What are they doing? How dare they hurt our nettles? Back to this patch out in the main garden, I found, when I opened them up, this little character deep inside. Let's see if I can get them revealed. A strange, dark grub making a cocoon out of our beloved nettle leaves. I'm going to be honest, back when I first saw these, this was a little bit before I started to really think in a deeper way about, hey, let's observe and let's try to understand. Let's try to have names for these characters before we interact. But I just went at it. I put on gloves and started squishing these little bastards. Let's get rid of them, was my feeling. They're killing the nettles. Let's get rid of them. And I talked with my friend Seven Song, who is a really wonderful herbalist in the Ithaca, New York area, about this, and he said he saw the same thing. He was like, what the heck is happening? All of our nettles are being destroyed. There's this tiny little nasty grub. What the heck do we do? How do we eradicate this invasive? How do we get rid of this horrible creature that's killing all of our nettles? But luckily we spent a little bit of time and tried to track down who the heck this character actually is, and it turns out this is a grub or a larval stage of the red admiral butterfly. I'm going to be very straightforward here. I'll skim the surface of what my understanding of this is. But basically, this is a butterfly that lives somewhere in Costa Rica, somewhere in central and northern half of Southern America, and travels many thousands of miles, gets themselves into the mid-Atlantic states of the United States, and then maybe sometimes gets themselves up to New York State. Turns out, with the way things are getting warmer and warmer, the Atlantic warming up, they're able to travel further north, and so they're landing and hosting inside some of these northern nettle patches. And so now there's a conundrum. We've got these nettles that are growing but being decimated, being hammered by this creature. They're not native, they're from somewhere else, but they're visiting here. Are they special? Are they endangered? Well, heck. It turns out stinging nettle is phenomenally hardy and resilient and fantastic, and makes a beautiful host for these long travelers, these non-native, intercontinental interlopers, these tiny little grubs that will somehow nourish themselves deeply and thoroughly. It makes sense because nettle is so phenomenally nourishing. Turns out they like hops as well. And they'll do their thing, eat the heck out of these, and then take flight when the time is right and head southern bound. And oh my gosh, what a wonderful event to be able to host such a long distance traveler. The best news is it turns out they get here a little bit later than when the nettles are first up. So if your interest is in eating spring greens, nourishing, rehabilitating greens, you can harvest the little purple nubbins coming out of the ground late March, early April. They're not here yet. They're southern, they're a very, very southern being on their way, slowly moving up. And once they get here, if you harvest some patches, you've got patches in many areas, really great reason to plant all of your plants that you care about in many different places. They'll find some, like this patch in the garden. They'll miss some, like the ones in the chicken yard. I think the chickens actually eat the butterflies before they have a chance to lay their eggs. And it all works out. It actually works out, just like most of these things work out. These are hardy perennial plants. They host this beautiful little butterfly creature in a very intimate and needed moment to nourish them on the plant material. They're eaten down. There's a ton of duff and debris and feces from these tiny little ones that nourish the nettles in return. They take flight, they leave, and everybody rebounds. So there are some patches in our garden where they are really phenomenally heartily hit. And now I've learned over the years, oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled that we get to be able to host this character that comes here from so far away and can live here for a little bit and then make it home for another life cycle. And the question of, hey, is that an invasive? Is it illegal? Is it immoral? Is irrelevant in my mind, because we are able to harvest as many nettles as we need. You can see this patch is extra well fed. It seems as though this little sweet tender larva doesn't hurt the extremely well fed, the super happy nettles. It's the ones that are under a little bit of duress, which is a very common theme. The characters that are able to do the most damage, like snails and slugs, tend to eat the plants that are under a little bit of duress. But so we have nettles we can harvest if we need. It's a little past prime anyway. We'll just let the cycle happen and feel rejoiceful that we get to be stewards of a landscape where we say yes to characters coming in from far away. They can visit for a little while, they can do what they need to do, and then take flight and leave. The red admiral butterfly and the stinging nettle, an interesting combination of characters interacting in our landscape. I would not even pretend to say I understand the full depth and complexity of what this means or what this translates to as far as nutrient flow and needs. I feel like my responsibility is to establish as many plants in as many places as possible, try to observe the characters that show up, learn over time to feel more and more grace and deference to who are you, what is the deal, what are you up to, are you providing a net benefit, deficit? I'm not quite sure if these are actually beneficial, so to speak, for this landscape, but they're landing here, they're meeting their needs, and they're traveling onward. And that feels like a really special character to say yes to, especially with the fact that our nettles each year rebound just fine and expand every single year. We're able to eat what we need, harvest what we need, dry what we need, and allow this sort of weird, strange intercontinental drift of beings as part of our picture. And I appreciate all of you watching and being open to the idea of my observations. I'm not promoting some idea that yes, they're so amazing and this is so bad and this is so good. As a non-native, technically invasive to this continent myself, I like to try to be careful and tread lightly in who I ascribe positive and negative attributions to. I'm really interested to understand who they are, who you are, before I get to make decisions about how I manage or how I say yes or no to you. In your landscape, do you have stinging nettle that you count on and depend on and really appreciate? And are they getting wailed on by some little strange creature from super far away? Little alien, a little friendly or unfriendly alien? Let us know in the comments too. And thanks for watching. Let's have some discussion down there. Keep it friendly and open and thoughtful. That's my hope. I'm presenting in the spirit that I am, with the expectation and anticipation that when we have dialogue about this in the comments, it matches the spirit of this, and I would ask for that. So thank you very much for watching.